Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll Masechtas Nedarim daf Nun Gimel. We are going to begin on Nun Gimel Amud Aleph at the very top by the new Mishnah. Masnisan Hanoider min tamarim. So a person made a neder regarding dates. Mutter bidvash tamarim. It's allowed to have the honey, which is a byproduct of the date. If a person makes a neder sivaniais, which are, Rashi says, hainu navim kashim, hard grapes, shemanichin bekerem, they're in a vineyard, koyim stav in the winter, but oisim hen chaimitz, they make vinegar out of them. So mutter b'chaimitz, so you're allowed to mutter b'chaimitz sisvaniais. So you're allowed to have the vinegar that comes from it. So in other words, when you make a neder on an object, the byproduct of that object is not in this category. Fine. Rabbi Yehuda ben Mesera Omer Kol Sheshem Toldatoi Kriya Olav. Anytime the name of the byproduct is called upon it, but Nedarim Eder Aser B'Yotzim, then it is Aser as well. But Chachamim Matirim, so we have this machlokas. So the Ran says, if the name is on it, could go in Devash Tamarim, the Chaimitz Sisvaniais. So since in the definition of honey, it's called Devash Tamarim, so since it has the word Tamarim, dates in it, so therefore when you made a neder on dates, so you also had in mind the Devash, the honey as well. For that matter, when it comes to the vinegar, because we call Chaimitz Sisvaniais, so therefore it also has the name of this in it as well, and therefore, according to this opinion, Rabbi Yehuda ben Mesera, the din is that it will be Aser. However, the Chachamim Matirin, the Chachamim say no, that doesn't make any difference, even if it has its name. Nonetheless, the din still is that it's not considered to be included. So Chachamim Hainu Tanakam L'Chayra, the Chachamim say the same thing as the Reish of our Mishnah. So Yikabenayu Chada. So the difference is one of them. Sanya Klal Zelim Rav Shimon ben Elazar. Rav Shimon ben Elazar said the following rule: Kol shedarka lechol, anything in which it's the normal way to eat it, and also the thing that comes from it, the byproduct, is also the thing which is eaten, kagon, tamarim, dates, udvash tamarim, and this honey from the dates, nadavo aser b'yotzim mimenu, because according to this, the Chachamim, according to this one shita, he says that in the event that it's something that is edible, the food and the byproduct, so therefore the din is that even the byproduct will be aser. Aser b'yotzim menu. However, noidim b'yotzim menu oiser bo. So, for that matter, again, could go in tamarim devash tamarim, nadabo aser b'yotzim menu. Noidim b'yotzim menu aser boy. If you made a neder on the honey, so it's also aser on the dates. However, kol she'ein darka lechol, it's something which is not something which is eaten, but the byproduct is eaten. When you make a neder, the only thing is going to be aser is the yotzim menu, is the edible thing which is the byproduct. In that situation, you only had in mind the thing which came out from it. So let's look at the Ran. The Ran says, and this is going to be question 9. Let's see what the question says first. Hanoidim in a tamarim mutter b'devash. Tamarim mistvanias mutter b'chaimitz. B'chaimitz isvanias. Rabbi Yehuda ben Mesera Omer, where he disagreed. Chachamim matirin. Ma'ika ben chachamim v'tanakama. So what's the difference between the two? So let's look at what the Ran says, and then we'll get the answer. So the Ran says, Kakar sinin b'hilchas Ramban zal v'halcha perusho. To Bahal pligi Tanakama pligi the Rav Shimon Elazar, but to Ravai who spherele what Tanakama the main dark lechol ben she'ein dark lechol, whether it's something which is edible or not, aser bo, the food is aser, the dates. However, v'lo b'yotzim menu, but not the byproduct. So according to one opinion, it makes no difference, even if it's something which is inedible. Nonetheless, the byproduct will be mutter. Rav Shimon Elazar spherele. If it's something which is eaten, and the byproduct is also eaten, then it'll be aser by both. So, for example, the dates and the honey, since the food and its byproduct are both something that is eaten, and they're both edible, so therefore they're both aser. If let's say the food is not edible, but the byproduct is eaten, aser b'yotzim mimenu. So below bow, you're only aser in the byproduct, which is the edible thing, but not the thing itself. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira savar lo Rav Shimon, bedarko echel v'derech hayotzim mimenu echel de'aser b'shnein. He holds like Rav Shimon that when something which is edible as well as the byproduct, then both of them are aser. They argue in a situation where it's something which the byproduct is edible. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira lo shani le umitzer nami b'turvayhu. So the machlokas, according to this, is when the food is not edible, but the byproduct is. Do we say only the byproduct is aser, or even the food itself, the other food, the thing itself is aser? Okay, so that is the question. So the Tanakama say only the food is aser, but what comes out is mutter. Rabbi ben Beseira says it will also aser what comes out. Chachamim says depends if only the chaymetz is edible, but the tavniyais is inedible, so only the chaymetz is aser. So this is the machlokas. So let's see what it says over here. Pligi bis tavaniyais atzman. These grapes, in which we said are in the winter, they are not eaten. All you do is you make vinegar out of them. So its byproduct is edible, but the food itself is not. So according to the Tanakama, it's aser, the Chachamim maters, and according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he'll say that they're both aser. Okay, let's see the next Mishnah. Okay, so the Mishnah says as follows: Masnis and Hanaidim and a yayin. If you made a neder against wine, grape wine, mutter b'yayin tapuchim. So you're allowed to have wine which comes from other things like apples. Says the Ran, since it has like an extra name, we make yayin stam. Yayin tapuchin is not called just stam yayin. So therefore, when you made a neder on wine, it's not including yayin tapuchin. For that matter, min hashemen mutter b'shemen shumshemen. If you say oil, we understood it to mean olive oil. But when it comes to shemen shumshemen, when it comes to sesame oil, that again is something in which it typically has a shim levaya. In other words, you don't just call it oil, you call it sesame oil. And therefore, that's not in the category when you said a neder against oil. Min a dvash. For the same matter, if you made a neder against dvash, honey, mutter b'dvash tamar, which is what we said just in the previous Mishnah. Because it's not called dvash, it's called dvash tamarim. So therefore, since you asered only dvash, so dvash tamarim doesn't count. Mina chaymitz, if you said vinegar, mutter b'chaymitz is svadius. Again, you're going to be mutter to this unripened grapes that turned into vinegar because it has this extra name. Min ha-creation, if you make a neder against leeks, mutter b'kaf lutois, that a person is allowed to have kaf lutos, and the Ran just says, the loy havi b'chalal karishin. These larger leeks are not in the category of leeks. Min ha-yarak, if a person makes a neder on vegetables, mutter b'yarakos asada, shushem lavai. There's another Ran concludes. Also, as the Mishnah says, that the vegetables in the field are allowed because it has this extra name. Says the Ran, the stam yarak lo mashma el yargina. Says the Gemara, Tanya hanayder men hashemen. If a person makes a neder on oil, which we normally think is referring to olive oil. So bit Eretz Yisrael mutter b'shemen shumshemen, because in Eretz Yisrael they don't typically use sesame oil. Says the Ran, Eretz Yisrael ein mistabkin klal el b'shemen zayis. So therefore, certainly you didn't have sesame oil in mind. Also b'shemen zayis, because again, obviously it's also b'shemen zayis because that's what's used. B'Bavel, which they usually only use sesame oils in Bavel, also b'shemen shumshemen u'mota b'shemen zayis, because that's probably what you had in mind. Now, what happens in Makam shemis tabkins mizeh umizeh? What if it's a place where they use both? olive oil and sesame oil. So asr b'zeh, so you're going to be asr in both. So pshita, obviously, why would you not think that? Of course you're going to be asr in both of them. What's tzricha deruba minchad mistapkin. The truth is, the majority of the people in the city, they only use one. There are some people in the city that use both. So madatema asr ruba, you should go after the majority of the people only use one. So therefore, maybe the other one's mutter. Kamash mulan savik isura chumra. Because we're dealing with savik isura, says the Ran. There's some that do use, even a minority. So it's like a din of Safik Dereisel Chumra by Safik Isura. So we're going to say that you can't use either. A Nedarim in a Yarak, if a person made a neder regarding vegetables, so it depends. During the 6 years of the 7-year Shemitah cycle, asbi rakos agina. You're not allowed to use the vegetables in a garden, because that's probably what you're referring to. But you are allowed to use the yarakos that are found in a field. Because stam, when a person used the word yarak, it's mashma that which is found in the garden, not which is found in a field. And the one which are the vegetables in a field, the Ran says is it has a shem lavai. Again, has this extra name. However, Vashvias, when it comes to the Shemitah, when you're not allowed to plant, you can't do all these things in your garden. Also be Rakos Asada, you're not allowed. You're also in the Rakos Asada. Umutter be Rakos Agina, because since the Rakos and the Gina, what's going around? Why is it B'Shvias also be Rakos Asada? Even though the B'Shvias, you made a neder on Shemitah. You didn't have intention that you're not going to use the vegetables in the garden. You can't use them anyway. You can't plant, you can't do anything. So you probably didn't have those in mind. And you probably had in mind the vegetables that grow in a field, which are not yours. As we continue to Nun Gimel Amud Beis. So the Gemara says, Lo Shanu, the only time we say, looking around, the Shi'is Mutter Birachas Agina, that the vegetables, and you made a neder against vegetables, but the vegetables in the garden will be mut to you, El B'makam She'en Mavin Yark Mechutz La'aretz. Lo Shana El B'makam She'en Mavin Yark Mechutz La'aretz. You don't bring vegetables from Chutz La'aretz L'Aretz. So if you don't do that, fine. So it's possible, says the Ran, maybe also the vegetables in the garden can be aser too. Since you have the custom to eat those types of vegetables, so the reality is, maybe on Shemitah, because people were naive to bring vegetables from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, so therefore maybe you had intention for those vegetables that you're making a neder. And therefore, for that reason, you would say that even the vegetables in a garden are going to be aser to you. But the truth is, ketanoi. It's actually a machlokas tanoim. Ein mavin yark min Chutz La'aretz La'aretz. One shita says you're not supposed to bring vegetables to Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel oimer mavin yark mechutz la'aretz la'aretz. You actually could. So my timer. So what is the whole reason? Mishum demandi oimer ein mavin. The one. What is the reason who says you can't do it? So I'm Rabbi Yirmiyah mishum gush. What's gush? Says Rash, the Ran rather. Mishum gush shema yeshmi afar chutz la'aretz. Maybe you have earth from chutz la'aretz. Bi'ikarayihu v'tami mishum safek mace. So there's the potential of safek mace over here, that you're taking earth from chutz la'aretz, and therefore because of that we have this concern, and therefore some say you can't actually take it from there. Question 20, TB 29. Ma hatam d'madiyar b'de'en mavin yerek mechutz la'aretz b'shvius. So when you make a neder during Shvius against Yerakos, so since the Sada is Hafgar, it means this isn't this as Aser to plant in your Gina, unless you're taking from Paris some Chutz La'aretz, which will be Aser, then you will Aser the Gina. So that's how he writes. And Mavin Mishum Chash Gush Eretz Ho'amim. hanidbak bo matama nafkim min menoidim and a yark mishmias im nes to be rakos gina to l'shchiach shenechol mishmias ve'enum b'chlal nidro elamad yamim mevin b'chutz la'aretz. Okay, so that is TB 29. So mark that down here. TB 29. TA 28 has a similar question. Madua in mavin yarak mechutzar. It's just a much more simple question, and the answer is because of gush. Let's see what he writes. Mishum gusha, gush eretz ha'amim. So it's an issue of potential tuma, and that's the reason why a person cannot necessarily, according to some opinion, bring vegetables from chutzar to Eretz Yisrael. Masdisa min akruv. If a person makes a neder against cabbage, aser bis pargus. He's also usher to have asparagus. Apparently, asparagus fell under the category of this kruv. It's a min kruv. It's a type of cabbage. Min asparagus mutar b'kruv. However, if you make a neder against asparagus, you're allowed to have cabbage because kruv is not in the category of asparagus. For that matter, says the Mishnah, min ha-grisin, person makes a neder that they're not going to eat this grisin, which is like grits, a very thick thick concoction, aser b'mikpah. A person is not allowed to have this thick cereal. Rabbi Yossi mater. Rabbi Yossi says it is allowed, as the Ran says. Keep looking up here. It says Rashi, but okay. It is Rashi. Min hamikba. So why does he say it's mutter? Rabbi Yossi mater d'ksaver ein mikba b'chal grisa. Min mikba mutter b'grisen. So it's a question again whether one falls into the category of the other. Min mikba. If a person says I'm not going to eat this thick cereal, so aser b'shum is also now to have garlic. Rabbi Yossi mater. Rabbi Yossi says it's allowed. Min hashum. So I'm not going to eat garlic. Mutter b'mikpa. Then you're allowed to eat this thicker dish. Min hadashim, you say I'm not going to eat lentils, aser b'ashishim. We said this before. You can't eat these lentils that are fried in a pot of sorts. Fine. Rabbi Yossi matir min hashishim mutar b'adashim. Rabbi Yossi matir. However, min hashishim mutar b'adashim. If you say make a neder against a shishim, you ought to have lentils. Chita, chitin, shanitayim. So you said wheat and chitim. So aser behen. So since you said this double language, it's aser ben kemach ben pas. Whether talking about flour or bread, fine. Grisin. I have to use this double language. Shanitayim aser behen ben lachin ben chayin ben mubushalim. Whether it's raw or cooked. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kainim gris. Person says the language of gris, ochita shanitayim, a wheat that I will not eat or taste, murtul chayis chayim. According to him, you are allowed to chew it while it is still in the state of being raw. Gemara, Tanya, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, ochita shanitayim, this wheat I'm not going to taste, asur efais, it's asur to bake, umurtul chayis, but you're allowed to chew it. Chitim, referring to raw wheat, shanitayim, so asur l'chayis, you can't chew it, umutar l'efais. Chita chitin, shanitayim, asur ben l'chayis, ben l'efais. You can't do anything. You can't cook it, you can't bake it, or to chew it. Gris shanitayim, asur l'vashel. If you say gris, I'm not going to taste, you're not to bake, cook it, umutar l'chayis, you can chew it. Grisin shanitayim, asur l'chayis, you can't chew it, umutar l'vashel. Grisin shanitayim, asur ben l'vashel, ben l'chayis. Question 10. Ha'omer, person who says hanoidim and hagrisin, make a neder about the grisin. So he says, you're not allowed to chew it raw. However, when it comes to the mikpah shel grisin, there they argue. We're going to continue with this next parak hanoidim and a yarak in the next daf. It's Hashem. Ad kan.